The meeting has started.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to May 19th, Alderman Council meeting. Good afternoon. Did I say good morning?
You did, but that's
I
okay.
did. So we're calling the meeting to order at 12:34 p.m. And I'll start out with the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Almac-Haldeman is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. The Township of Almac-Haldeman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Item 4, approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council session of Thursday, May 19th, 2022 be approved as circulated. Have a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Gibson and Councillor Hogg seconds. All in favor? Carried. Item 5, approval of the minutes. Council sessions, April 26th and May 5th. Be it resolved that the special council session minutes of Thursday, April 26th, 2022, and the regular council session minutes of Thursday, May 5th, 2022 be approved. Mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Booth, all in favor?
I
Sure.
have,
Business from the minute?
no, actually, in terms of the approval on the April 26th meeting, 12.2, report from Pat Kemp dated May 5th, re-rental of vacant lands with Pat McLaren. I'm not sure that the way that is worded is an accurate reflection of the discussion that we had around those vacant lands. Council had concerns regarding the township of allowing the renewal. I don't recall all of council having concerns. I'm wondering if that can be reworded, that there was discussion regarding the township allowing renewal.
You got that? Pat?
Yep.
Any further business? Yes.
I just want to make sure that council has all of their microphones on so that the public can hear the responses clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Any further business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. Item 7 is Planning Department. 7.1 is report from Jennifer Current, Senior Planner, dated May 19th, 2022, and it's short-term rental accommodation. Be it resolved that Council of the Almac-Haldeman Township received the report from the Senior Planner dated May 19th, 2022 regarding short-term rental accommodation. If I can get that on the floor, and then we'll make the decision later. Can I have a mover, please? Sherry, second. Jim? Okay. Go ahead.
For you, Mayor Latchford. This is a report as requested by council. It provides options for the regulation and licensing of short-term rental accommodations in the municipality. as you'll be aware, the township has had several discussions regarding short-term accommodations in the municipality. There was a public meeting, a statutory public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment on April 26th at the Alnwick Civic Center. It was quite well attended. There were a number of people there, and there were a lot of comments regarding short-term rentals. Since that time, I've also received some other written comments that have been appended to the council agenda that you would have had an opportunity to review prior to this meeting. And since the report was published, I received another comment that I'll be reading to you in a few minutes. So basically, at the last municipal planning meeting in April, after the public meeting, council had requested that I prepare 3 options for council's consideration with respect to the regulation of short-term rental accommodations. The first option, which has been reviewed by council previously, would permit short-term rental accommodations in a number of zones that currently permit bed and breakfast establishments in the municipality, subject to licensing. There's also an associated licensing bylaw that is being recommended too. The second option would permit short-term rental accommodations in those same zones. However, they would only be permitted in a person's principal residence, not in a second dwelling. So if you had a cottage property and that was not your main residence, it would not be eligible for short-term rental accommodations. Short-term rental accommodations would only be permitted in the property at the address which you regularly receive your mail, and that would be your tax bill and that sort of thing. And the third option, council requested an outright prohibition on short-term rental accommodations. However, with discussion with our municipal solicitor, they advised that is not really a defensible option for the municipality to choose. There could be reasons why short-term rental accommodations could be permitted in a hamlet commercial or general commercial zones where there really would be an impact on adjacent residential uses. So what I did, rather than a blanket prohibition on short-term rentals, was I drafted a bylaw that would prohibit short-term rental accommodations in all the zones except basically your commercial zones, your hamlet commercial, your general commercial, and I believe we've got a general industrial zone also. So that's how that would take it. So you won't find a bylaw that says short-term rentals are prohibited in the municipality of Alnwick-Haldeman. So those are the 3 options that I have for council's consideration. And I just want to read a comment here that was received after my report was written. It was received from Rick Hunter and David Flores. Good evening, Jennifer. Thank you for taking my call this morning and providing me with updated information on the township's discussion regarding short-term rentals. I must say that I was surprised with the results following the public meeting and the council's direction for the options. I was not aware that there were going to be discussions at the April 28th council meeting, or that the matter was being forwarded directly to council for May 19th, rather than going to the planning committee and then to council for decisions. I was not able to attend the public meeting and understand that many who did attend were against approving short-term rentals. Based on our prior discussions and the material that was provided leading up to the public meeting, I did not have any significant concerns with the approach to zoning and licensing. However, the changes that are being suggested subsequent to the public meeting may be quite significant depending on which option council decides to go with and are of concern. I am particularly concerned about the option that would prohibit short-term rentals, whether in owner-occupied premises or on investment properties, on most properties in the township. It seems somewhat disingenuous to indicate that a blanket prohibition is not being considered when every residentially zoned property in the township is potentially prohibited from any new short-term rentals. Given that short-term rentals occur in residential buildings on residential properties, this might as well be a blanket prohibition. I don't believe that this approach is in the long-term economic interests of the township and does not address the positive impacts that these facilities have for small businesses in the community. As a current owner and operator of a short-term rental in our principal residence in our township, I understand I understand from your most recent report that we would be considered legal non-conforming, non-compliant, and will be able to continue operating. For this reason, the changes would not adversely affect our own operation. However, it would be more appropriate to be conforming rather than non-conforming. I will be attending the council meeting on May 19th. I understand that since this is not a public meeting, there is no opportunity to make a presentation. However, at a minimum, given the changes potentially being proposed to the short-term rental bylaw since the public meeting, I would request that you provide this email to council members in advance of their consideration of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Rick Hunter and David Flores on Poplar Road. And I just also want to note that the licensing bylaw, our lawyer has had an opportunity to do a review prior to the inclusion in my report. However, they wanted to do a more thorough one because there was one nuance that they wanted to just confirm that I corrected properly. And in the draft bylaw, I have used the incorrect spelling of principal in section 1.1, the definition. It should be principal with a PAL instead of PLE. So if you're adopting the licensing bylaw, I would request that we change the spelling of principal in the definition to PRINCIPAL. So that's a summary of the report, and I'm here to answer any questions that council may have with respect to the options that are provided in the three bylaws, the three zoning bylaw amendments, which are included in attachments C, D, and E to the report. The draft licensing bylaw is in attachment B, and the comments received since April 26th are in attachment A.
Deputy Mayor Gibson?
Through you, Jennifer, just clarification on the process. If I purchased a property and I wanted to make it into a short-term rental, how will I know that I need to contact the township to initiate the licensing process?
It will be advertised on, we'll have it on our municipal website that all short-term rental accommodations have to be licensed. In the same way that somebody who operates a campground in the municipality now or a refreshment vehicle have to obtain licenses. I understand that it's going to be a learning curve for people. We have identified a number of existing short-term rental accommodations that, depending on how council goes, notices will be sent out to them that they require a license, and then we'll send them a copy of the application form and they can submit their license. It's not unusual for me to receive phone calls when people are purchasing properties, particularly with respect to short-term rentals, asking whether short-term rentals are a permitted use in the municipality, because this is becoming more and more municipalities are looking at regulating short-term rental accommodations due to a variety of reasons. And often people will call. Sometimes they don't call the municipality in advance of purchasing a property, and sometimes they do, but generally.
So in a large part, I would say we're going to be relying on real estate agents to properly disclose. I guess where I'm getting at is, are we putting an undue burden on neighbors that, if there's not that, if they're not coming in and going through the licensing process, are people then going to have to pick up the phone and call to report?
That is generally how bylaw complaints work. We work on a complaint-driven process. So somebody submits a complaint to our municipal website. We have a little tab at the top of the page that says compliments and concerns. I'm not sure we get a lot of compliments on it. It's mostly concerns, but they submit their bylaw concern and they're investigated. That's how all bylaw concerns generally work. However, with the short-term rentals, because we do have a list of known ones, those ones will be sent notices and license application forms.
Those are the ones that are legal non-conforming.
Well, it depends on how council chooses to, what council chooses to do, whether you choose to do they could be, if you permit them, if you go with the second option, which would permit them in a principal residence, there may be some of them that will be just legal. Like the email that I read out, if you opted to go with option 2, that would become a legal short-term rental accommodation, because it would be in their they've indicated that it's in their principal residence.
Right.
However, if they're renting, a lot of the ones on 6108 Curtis Point Road, they're not in principal residences. And if you did option 1, or sorry, option 2 for that one, they would become legal non-conforming.
Right.
Actually, they'd be legal non-conforming under any of the options unless you approve short-term rental accommodations in the limited service residential zone.
So we've got a huge problem regardless. Mayor Lashford, are you entertaining discussion at this point in terms of the options, or are we waiting until after delegation for that?
Well, we have a delegation who's on the agenda, who wishes to speak to the grandfathering. I'm thinking here. Where's my- over here. Yeah, Valerie wants to, but other council members, do you have anything that you wish to comment on? With this, are you finished, Sherry?
Well, I've got lots to say, but I don't want to say it out of turn if we want to wait until after the delegation. I've just got a couple other thoughts about.
Well, council could move to have the delegation at this time, if you wish. You want to do
So
that?
I would make the motion that we allow the delegation from Valerie McDonald to take the floor at this time before
All right.
we continue discussion.
Okay, that's fine. Valerie, so you're making the motion. I need a seconder. Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carrie? Valerie, would you like to do your presentation now? Got so many papers. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor or Madam Mayor, and welcome and hello to all councillors. I'm going to start by saying that the update as it relates to changing number 3 only being presented now makes it very difficult to speak against that because in fact, as my presentation will reiterate, both of our petitions started with the fact that people didn't want them. Certainly that was very evident at the public meeting, nor did they want grandfather. I would say that we have found that there are a good number of municipalities that have decided that they do want to prohibit and that they do want a grandfather. So I don't think that is outside your purview at all. Also, amendments can be made so that if in fact you pass a bylaw today prior to the holiday weekend, when there would be all kinds of other ones coming into place because of the timing. And specifically right next door to me, they've finally taken away the bin. They're doing the outside landscaping. I've been talking to the workers. They're working to this deadline. There's no doubt about it. And then it would become grandfathered. So most of the people who were at the public meeting, as I mentioned before, wanted a prohibition. Those people who signed a petition who work are relying on me and the presentation I'm making today. Regardless which option, 1, 2, or 3 you choose, I implore you not to grandfather the existing operations. And despite saying this, prohibiting short-term rentals is what people in this municipality have said they want. And that includes not letting any operate at all. These are our residential communities, not places for commercial operations to be foisted upon us. I can tell you I have been unnerved and anxious since my very close neighbor, as I've mentioned, our buildings are about 10 feet apart, sold to a numbered company, which the contractors renovating told me owns 100 such properties to rent out as Airbnbs across Ontario. People will be renting and changing weekly, people with no commitment to the neighborhood or understanding of private road living, which requires consideration and give and take, not like a 2-lane highway. Workers have been working frantically to open this coming weekend, and a bylaw needs to be in place to protect me and my neighbors, where there are already at least 2 on the road to the left of me and 2 on the road to the right of me, and my road is a short dead-end road. As to grandfathering, what even constitutes an existing and continuing short-term rental, given the winter season hiatus that most observe? I don't see anything in the bylaw that addresses this. If short-term rentals are permitted in areas allowing B&Bs, and you have already determined in previous discussions that limited service residential is incompatible for safety reasons for short-term rentals, why would you choose option 1? And as I read it, and following Jennifer's explanation, I may not have interpreted this right. Number 2 would permit them on private roads in limited service residential. And as I say, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Option 3, prohibiting them in the township, is what people are asking for. The start of both of the petitions presented to council began by saying they're not wanted. Please listen to your residents. Please pass number 3 option today before more short-term rentals open this coming holiday weekend. And when I got here, I have a resident in the township who has emailed me wanting to pass along this information. And so I'm not going to be reading this easily because it's on my cell phone, but I'll do my best. She looked at the report from your planner. Read page 25. Parking space per guest room. But what about boat trailer parking? Again, on a private road, you've seen the pictures or picture that I sent to everyone that shows when you have a service truck, they're taking up 2/3 to 3/4 of the road. How do you deal with all of the other traffic, and in particular, boat trailer traffic and the parking definitions? Babies generate just as much garbage and consume just as much water and sewage. Does this guest count include daily visitors? If they have 20 people show up for a birthday party and say it's only for a day, what happens? 1.10, page 22. They can have as many guests as they want, drink all day, and then can't drive. So does that mean all 25 vehicle guests stay overnight? On page 36, she references late evening and early morning in terms of, I guess, when things take place. I don't know that specifically. That is left to opinion. Late evening is 9 p.m. to me when I go to bed. Same for me, by the way. Schedule B, are fines per day, question mark? Page 39, again, boat trailer. Is it not a vehicle? But the definition says motor vehicle, and a boat trailer wouldn't be doing that. Does someone who is grandfathered need to submit description and insurance, etc.? It doesn't look like it to this person. 7.0, page 25, and I don't see a definition of grandfathering. And then I think this is the last part she sent me. To be grandfathered, do they need to prove previous income or just say that they've been renting? Also, to be grandfathered, do you just need to say you rented once last summer? The property right next to me, they haven't rented at all, unless it's online, but nobody physically has come to that property yet. So again, I implore you, pass a bylaw that will prohibit them and stop the grandfathering of those that are already on places like private roads where, in our particular instance, there are already 2 commercial resorts, and the one resort owner signed one of the petitions because he feels it's unfair competition. And those are my words and last minute words from one of the people who was at the public meeting but couldn't come.
Thank you, Valerie. Anyone have questions for Valerie? Thank you very much. We'll take your comments into consideration. Okay. Council? Go ahead.
I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay.
So through you to Jennifer. Jennifer, seems to be you are on the hot seat. You've done so much work and put so much effort into this, and we continue to pepper you with questions, but it's such a complicated subject. So when we talk about not allowing grandfathering, and we've gotten legal advice that, that is the way it is, how do we go about as a township doing that? How do we challenge that definition of legal non-conforming, or what?
All I can provide to council is the advice that we have received from the municipal solicitor, that because there's been nothing in our bylaws to date that would prohibit short-term rental accommodations in existing buildings. If you pass a bylaw that would prohibit that use in a building that is currently being used for that, it would become a legal non-conforming use under the Planning Act. That's under the Planning Act. The municipality doesn't really have an option to say grandfathering doesn't exist. Because that is what our municipal solicitor has told us. If you wanted to, councils can pass bylaws that say anything, and unless if they're it's when you're challenged whether your position is defensible or not. And I believe that the documents that I've included in the report are defensible documents. If you were to include a clause that says grandfathering or legal non-conforming uses aren't permitted, I'm not sure whether that would hold up to a challenge or not. There are ways of legal non-conforming uses going away over time. If there's a change in use to a property, then that could trigger a change in status. Then the legal non-conforming status could change. If a property was being used as a gross exaggeration, if it was being used as a house for short-term rental accommodation and then it became a retail store, then it would lose its legal non-conforming status as a short-term rental, because the use would change. So the use has changed, so you lose your legal non-conforming status. I don't believe that the municipality can pass a bylaw that says legal non-conforming uses, they wouldn't be legal, that existing short-term rental accommodations will be prohibited. I don't believe that we can. And that was the direction that I received from our municipal solicitor.
So if we do, we have to be prepared that there will be legal costs likely associated with that.
Yes, I believe that you can anticipate that there will be legal costs associated with a challenge to a bylaw that says existing short-term rentals are prohibited.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, an outright ban, after hearing all of the comments and, the passion and concern from the public meeting, sounds like, it's an appropriate thing to do. But I worry that an outright ban is only going to penalize honest people. I wonder if there's an outright ban, there's still going to be short-term rentals pop up. And then, you know, how do we control that? Is that easy to do through bylaw enforcement?
Is it easy to do? Probably not. It's going, because these places make a lot of money, a lot of money. So that the fines, we've got fines in our short-term, the licensing bylaw that says operating a short-term rental accommodation without a license, your fine is X number of hundreds of dollars. Compared to the amount of money that short-term rental accommodations are making, kind of a drop in the bucket. I did ask our lawyer about increasing the fees and fines established in the bylaw, and their comment was that they cannot be punitive. We can't make them so high that it's punitive.
So, you know, based on all of that, I wonder if option 2 isn't the best option to say we're at least moving forward in some fashion. You've got to live. I would hope that if you lived in the home that you're renting, that you're going to make sure that you vet those people that are coming to rent properly. But I still think that to me, there's a huge concern that we would allow short-term rentals on private roads, just based on the fact that we know it's difficult to get emergency services there. And, you know, I think we would open ourselves up to some liability in that regard.
Okay, I was going to comment, but go ahead.
I just want, through you, Mayor Latchford, we did remove short-term rental accommodations from the limited service residential zone, and option 2 does not permit short-term rental accommodations in the limited service residential zone. And the limited service residential zone is the zone that we use to place properties that are on private roads.
Okay, so option 2 would negate people renting out their properties on those private roads.
New ones.
And my concern is also if Curtis Point Road, and you go in the extension of it, that's the private road, already has 4. In my opinion, that's too many for that road. Plus the fact that, you know, they upkeep the road, the residents pay to keep those roads in shape. And do we have anything that, I mean, I know some maybe don't pay, I don't know anymore because it's up to them, but it would be imperative that should they stay, the short-term rentals, that they also have to contribute, and we probably can't force that, but we need to make them very aware of that somehow. And again, the concern with the private roads is emergency service vehicles. And also I agree with the, you know, what else is coming to be parked? We don't want somebody coming in a trailer, not a trailer, but a mobile vehicle and parking on the road, etc. So somehow we have to make things fairly strict on those private roads. And can we not allow further on that private road or any private road? Can we go that step?
Can we, sorry, are you suggesting that?
There's 4 there.
Right. So by passing this, if you passed option 2, which doesn't permit short-term rental accommodations in the limited service residential zone.
Mhm.
The 6108 Curtis Point Road is zoned limited service residential. That means that they wouldn't be allowed to have any more on that road.
Okay, that was the question.
Yeah. In terms of the township enforcing contributions to road upkeep on private roads, yeah.
We can't,
no.
but
owners of those properties, I don't know how road agreements work on those private roads. But if there was a road agreement that said each owner of each property on that private road has to contribute X number of dollars per year to the road upkeep, the owners of that short-term rental accommodation property, I would assume, would be party to that agreement.
And that would be up to,
But that's up to
those
the road.
neighbors.
I don't know whether they have formal road agreements on those roads here or not, or whether they're just sort of, some cottage countries have quite formalized road agreements.
Yeah.
And others have more of a handshake deal where people have just done it this way for a number of years and you all throw money in and it gets, or you get an invoice for your plowing and it's.
yeah, well, they were there in the summer and
Yeah.
they didn't need what they do now with them being home. Okay. And what was my other question? Lost my list. I'll think of it. Oh, I know. I'm a little concerned about the people who have short-term rentals who have been exceptionally good to their clients and managed well. And, you know, they've run good businesses. There hasn't been any problems with them. And if they wish to continue, I would hate to see them be penalized because it is a form of tourism. Bed and breakfast basically started out on farms. And people came for the weekend or a few days and brought their books and their walking shoes. And it's changed quite a bit since then. So that I find is an issue as well. And I agree with the gentleman who, would really like to be legal and not just particularly grandfathered. And I think that I know that's an issue, but if we could somehow work that, be better in the long run.
That
Yeah.
would be option number 2.
Yes, and the other thing is, I think we have to do something to keep it in control, or we may not know this is even happening, and then we get a bylaw infraction and we haven't got a leg to stand on, or the police can't show up because we don't have the bylaw. So kind of puts us in a hard spot. Sherry.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of continue on that same train of thought, and we heard, I think at the public meeting that the OPP get called and they don't do anything. But I think the importance of calling the police to that address is it gets tracked. And if everybody chooses not to call, the police never know that there's an issue. If the police get called a dozen times in 2 weeks or a month, and they can say that that address is continually being flagged, then, I think then that's an opportunity to take those concerns a little more seriously. And I think the other thing is too, we've done our part in terms of taking seriously the fact that we know that we need additional bylaw enforcement, and we've taken that step too. So we've got some resources now behind us.
Yeah. But if it's an emergency that the police are called to is one thing, but if it's a bylaw infraction and we don't have the bylaw, then there's really not a lot the police can do. So we need this.
And reading right after, I believe that bylaw is also working on an update to our noise bylaw too.
Yeah.
That will address that, because right now I believe our noise bylaw just really speaks to construction noise and that sort of thing. But I think it's being updated to include other noise nuisances.
And we have our fireworks bylaw.
Yes, and we now have the fireworks bylaw, which last year was not in place for the summer season.
Yeah. We need to make it very clear that Short-term rentals aren't freewheeling, go do whatever you want and then leave. Because there's neighbors they have to consider and the municipality and the costs that could arise for us. So I think the fees are too low, but I understand what you're saying. The $250 for if someone has to go out, a bylaw officer has to go out, to me should be every trip. Not $750, $500 for all the licensing, that's fine. But to pay $250 once and it gets settled is fine. But then for the people who run legitimate businesses, I don't want them paying for the ones that aren't. So I don't know if you can write that in, that every trip is a cost after the first one, however you want to word it.
There are occasions, though,
I know,
that somebody complains and the bylaw enforcement officer goes out and they're really, I'm not saying it's in this case, but you do have vexatious neighbors who continuously call on people saying that there's a problem here, a problem here, a problem here, and every time they go out, there's not a problem. And to charge that short-term rental accommodation operator for vexatious calls would seem to be unfair also. So I understand it.
yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but it's, you know, if the owner isn't going to listen, then
And that's where we have the fines and the penalties in the licensing bylaw.
which can be added to the taxes if
Yes.
they don't pay. Okay, further questions?
I just have one.
Go ahead.
I don't think I read anywhere in option 2 about density. If you happen to get a whole bunch of, in a row, principal, homes that also wanted to be licensed, can that be written in that there be I don't know, what kind of like
I'm not
equation or?
I'm not partial to those types of regulations. I've dealt with them before and I find them to be difficult. It's first person to the board wins. And so if you establish I used to have a cluster policy in a former municipality that said you were allowed to have X number within a certain radius. So you draw a circle around it. And if you've got first person to the table gets approval, they're running their business, there's no complaints. And somebody else comes in and they're within that circle, doesn't matter whether it's going to be a legitimate one or not. Sorry, too bad, you're out. When we're permitting them in a primary residence, I guess that I don't know. I'm sorry. You can include something that's not going to get rid of existing legal non-conforming that would be in effect if they existed prior to the passing of the bylaw. You could certainly put in, I don't know what number you would use though. Is it one per 400 meters? Is it one per 200 meters? Is it one per 200 meters linear, or is it one per 200 meters from all four corners of the property? Because that's a cluster discussion, because if it's linear along the road, along your road frontage, it's easy to calculate. But if it's 400 meters or 200 meters or 100 meters from the property, is that we measure it from each corner of the property 100 meters out. So it has a effect of basically depth of your lot plus your 100 meters from all of your corners. And it's doable. I don't know what number to use. I can take council's direction on that.
Is that something, Jennifer, that can be written in next year if there's,
A zoning bylaw is a zoning
like
bylaw.
a living document?
It can be
Yeah.
amended.
Yeah.
This is the first stab at it. But if you something, if something develops with this bylaw, so you have a short-term rental accommodation in the rural residential zone, and you've got, or more appropriately, the shoreline residential, you've got 3 houses that all do short-term rental accommodations in their primary residence in the shoreline residential zone, and they get licensed and they're under this bylaw. If you decide next year that you don't want to permit, that you're going to require a 200-meter minimum distance between them, those 3 still are going to exist. They're going to be legal. So anything that becomes legal under this bylaw will be legal until it ceases to exist. Right. Yeah. But yeah, the bylaw can be amended.
Any further comments, Councillor Booth?
I guess just back to that question that the deputy mayor brought up. So to eliminate that, wouldn't we just go with option 3 then? Because you're talking about primary residence. So if you just ban it, then you don't have to worry about the future of anybody buying it and living in it. And
By option number 3 is the most stringent of all of the options. It would preclude any new short-term residential accommodation in any residential zone in the agricultural or rural sense. So they would be permitted in the Hamlet commercial, the general commercial zones, and that's the only place that new short-term rental accommodations would be permitted. The others would be legal non-conforming.
okay, so I guess looking over all of these options, there's 42 short-term rentals that we have right now. There's nothing that we can do that is going to stop. If they're running it now, we're kind of done. We can't do anything about anybody that's running it now, right?
That is the advice that I've been given, and that's the legal non-conforming works under the Planning Act. Yes.
Because looking at these options, it's great that we're going to stop it, but we can't do anything about the 42 that are already there.
No, we can even under option 3, I would still recommend that you pass the licensing bylaw. So you still license them, and if there are problems, you can still fine them. Those fines can be added to their tax bills, that sort of thing, but you can't.
Yeah, that was my next question. So if we went with 3 and we banned them totally, so this day forward, there would be no more. The ones that are legal non-conforming, they would still be subject to being inspected and having fines and stuff like that, or are they exempt from that?
They would, if you pass your licensing bylaw, they'll still be subject to the terms of the licensing bylaw, with the exception, I don't believe you'll be able to revoke their license. Because under the draft licensing bylaw, we give an option for if there are 3 investigated bylaw contraventions within a 12-month period, that the license could be revoked. I don't believe that with the legal non-conforming that we have that option, because if we revoke their license, they're still legal non-conforming.
So even the people in the township that are in their principal residence are allowed to carry on based on that they will be, gathered under the licensing bylaw. Yeah. Okay.
So I guess my comment would be, I would go for 3, which is to stop everybody. And then the ones that are there that are the problem childs, then we're going to have to deal with them through the bylaw, right? Issues like that. I find the problem with option 2 in the principal dwelling is, Councillor Phillip mentioned it last meeting, is in Toronto, which I believe has that, don't they? The issue is trying to prove that it's their principal residence, where he said they're having staff spend hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to find out if that is their principal residence. And when you've got numbered companies and you're trying to follow the trail and everything like that, and they're putting up roadblocks, it's better just to go with option 3, which is stop them. That's it. And whatever we have now, we'll deal with the bylaw officer. So I'd be looking at 3 myself, is to just say, let's stop it. And then we'll deal with the 42 that we have.
you, Mayor Latchford. With respect to the, I don't know how Toronto does things, and I know it's much more cumbersome and much more difficult. And I know they had a really difficult problem there with basically ghost hotels and condominium towers and that sort of thing. An entire condominium tower is short-term rentals, so the units aren't available for long-term tenants. But perhaps I'm simplifying things. But if, given where we are with our geography and our everything else, if we get an application for a short-term rental or a kind of complaint about a short-term rental, even if it's a numbered company, if the numbered company's mailing address for their tax bill is the same address as the short-term rental accommodation unit, then I would assume that they're living there, because very, very rarely do they get their tax bill at another address. But maybe they'll become so sophisticated that they set up a post office box wouldn't do it, because we're looking at the mailing ad. It needs to be at the address of the short-term rental where they receive their mail. So, it's just,
Well, and with number 2, like the deputy mayor said, it raises the question of principal dwellings, and you could have 6 in a street if it's all the principal dwellings. So we can cut that right out too with number 3, which is just say they're not allowed. That's it. We're kind of done. We can't do anything about the 42 that are there. And I know council would love to be able to do something to help the residents out, but it looks like legally we're kind of stuck that way. So let's just stop anything from this day forward and try and make the rules and regulations that, when the bylaw officer goes out there, it might be a drop in the bucket for the fines, but if you're out there all the time and you're after them, they might just decide that it's not worth the hassle, right?
Anything further? Jim?
I agree with Councillor Booth, and I think we should go with this route until we see how it plays out, and so we can see how we get a grip on things, and then maybe in the future, if things work out okay, and it's not a real bad pain, maybe we could allow more in the future. But we should get a control of what we already have.
And is there ever a chance, Jennifer, that we can be, if we chose that option, then in the future, can we be more specific as to this road has enough, this road, if somebody bought, or it's just free for all?
so right now, I think they're talking about option 3.
They are.
So I think with option 3, they'll be permitted in the commercial zones of the municipality. And in residential zones, agricultural, rural, they wouldn't be permitted. But in terms of then at a later date establishing a cap on the number, you wouldn't be able, in a residential zone, there wouldn't be any new ones, and you wouldn't be able to get rid of any legal non-conforming ones.
Okay.
But with option 3, it would give you the flexibility to next year decide that you wanted to permit them in the shoreline residential and rural residential zones, perhaps. And then that would
Okay.
open that up and see how that goes. And then if that was okay, you could the next year say, perhaps we want to open it up to allow them in the hamlet residential zone. Or it would give you, option 3 is the most stringent, and it only allows you to get more open. So you start more flexible, sort of, couldn't come up with the word. So you start strong, and then you can see how it goes, and then you can open up.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion? We got it all out there. Okay, I'll entertain the motion.
So I will make that motion. I don't know if I made the motion for the report, so I'm going to carry on. And I think this is good discussion, and I know we've given a lot of thought and put a lot of time into this. So, you know, in the interest of, you know, our residents and moving forward, I'm going to approve option 3 with the licensing bylaw. Jennifer, is that the right wording?
So you're recommending that.
Recommending
council
the
approve
adoption of option 3.
Bylaw option, zoning bylaw amendment option 3, which is contained in appendix E of the planning report PED 2021 or 21, and the licensing bylaw that's contained in appendix or attachment B of planning report 2022 PED 21, with the change in spelling
Yes,
to principal in item 1.21.
yes. So that would be my motion.
Okay. Counselor Hogg, you seconded the motion. Are you in favor?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Counselor Hogg. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alma Colman receive the report from the senior planner dated May 19th, 2022 regarding short-term rental accommodation, and further that council
Approve option 3.
approve option 3 with the, do you need with the licensing?
With the
by-
licensing bylaw.
With the licensing bylaw
Correction spelling.
and the correction of the spelling of principal. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer. Our next item is, our second delegation is an oral submission from Mr. Richard Simchuk regarding information and opinion relative to previous discussions on secondary dwellings. So the council permit Richard Simchuk to take the floor to make an oral submission to council. Can I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Counselor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. Welcome, Mr. Simchuk. You have your presentation ready? You're going to read it?
Thank you. I'm assuming the microphone is sterilized.
I don't know. I don't, probably was.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rolanda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before beginning, there seemed to be some confusion or assumptions regarding the topic which I originally submitted. I was placed on the item regarding short-term rentals. I have no knowledge or interest in that particular topic. It was originally communications and opinion, and I amended the topic accordingly.
Okay.
To begin with, all my comments are without prejudice, unless there's an objection. Thank you. And its correspondence to Mayor Latchford and of course to council. After considerable research and reviewing the many reports and related documents related to my previous experiences before the Township Planning Committee regarding a secondary residence in an accessory structure, I'm compelled to write to you and the members of council to clarify what I strongly believe may have been an unfair and unjust decision of denial based on incorrect and/or misleading information provided to you by staff and perhaps by other sources. My intent is to ensure that you have the absolute correct, complete, and latest information regarding this issue as it pertains to my situation. Since I felt that some was either not explained thoroughly by myself, misunderstood, or misinterpreted. All of this is possible and even likely since the meetings were via Zoom, placing any speaker at a distinct disadvantage. Now, by way of introduction, I'm presenting to you some simple facts which I had previously submitted to you either orally or in writing and are based on what is publicly available. In addition, I've added some personal comments and opinions in my summary statement. Please bear with me as this issue has serious implications for myself, as well as for other members of council, the administration of this township, and very likely for other taxpayers of Alderman Township, since I've been informed that several others are interested in this topic. At the outset, it seemed that the only guiding principle for the staff's constant denial to recommend a secondary residence in an ancillary structure is based on the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Act and refusing to address and consider the importance and implications of many other documents, such as the Ontario Acts, regulations, and provincial policy statements. In fact, Bylaw Enforcement Officer Hall stated to me that the Oak Ridges Moraine Act is his, quote, Bible. My response to that is that there is an infinite number of interpretations of all sections of that book, and there have been for centuries. Also, an approved amended edition has altered interpretation of many of the original intents, specifics, and wordings. Common knowledge. Further, in addition to quotations from provincial laws, what I hope will prove to you is that the Oak Ridges Moraine Act does not mention and therefore does not deny a secondary residence in the specific countryside agricultural zone in which my property is located, despite what your planner has reported to you. Just as significant, the restrictive information you have been provided with several times by the planner refers to two zonings which are not part of my property plan for a secondary residence in an ancillary building. And they are the natural core and natural linkage areas. Nothing to do with my property. With your planner's report sent to council and a quote from the township bylaw, which has conveyed a misleading, incorrect, and unfair message, in my opinion. I attempted to point out this differentiation at the November 2021 planning meeting, but the planner did not comment on the difference and continued to refer to the two restrictive zonings, which I repeat, have nothing to do with my situation. This is on record in the meeting minutes as follows. I quote, he, myself, also advised that he is in the ORMC, that's Ontario Oak Ridges Moraine, not the natural core or natural linkage area. That was my statement to council. Jennifer Current advised that in the natural core and natural linkage areas in the ORMC plan, no secondary dwellings are permitted. I bring that up. Was it to confuse the issue? This was misleading counsel, in my opinion, and likely set the stage for further unfair and unjust denials by some, but not all, members of council. Two council members evidently were not convinced by this misinformation. Further, months ago, I reported that my neighbor, the Ivory family, in the identical countryside zoning as mine, received approval to construct a secondary residence in an ancillary structure, a garage, because as bylaw enforcement official Hall informed me he considered a newly constructed 20-foot walkway part of a principal residence. Now, please compare the planner's report to council in December 2021, which states that, quote, her words, "The Ontario Building Code contains the following definition, quote, walkway means a covered or roof pedestrian thoroughfare used to connect two or more buildings," unquote. She goes on to say that, quote, "The connection of two buildings using a walkway would not be consistent with the regulations for secondary units in the ORM, as two buildings would be connected and the secondary dwelling unit would not be within the existing single dwelling," unquote. Where is the consistency of these two conflicting statements from staff? And how did the Ivory family receive approval for the secondary dwelling in the same zoning as mine, but refusal to me to support? My point here is that there is inconsistency of policy, but the matter of a walkway is not an issue for me at this time, nor has it been for months. I bring it forth only to point out a serious issue with some members of staff in their communications and agreement on certain policies. In the same report, the planner states that secondary dwelling units are not permitted in ancillary buildings in the Oak Ridges Moraine. The information from that document, section 13 in the Act, residential development must be in accordance with section 14. Residential, and I quote, "Residential development is permitted with respect to land in the county of Northumberland, except in prime agricultural areas and areas designated primarily for agriculture uses in the official plan." Mine is not. Furthermore, section 14 states that, quote, "Residential development shall not be approved unless, first, the relevant municipality has completed a comprehensive growth management study, including a rural economic development strategy that demonstrates the need for residential development." And it goes on with further details. Since, as reported above, my neighbor in the identical zoning received approval for a residential building, a reasonable assumption can be made that this requirement has been implemented in this township. And a review of past approvals for residential buildings in the same zone would be of great interest to me and to most, as well as the number of inquiries, dissuasions, and rejections from staff. This can be easily, as we know, accomplished through the township's disclosure policy. Furthermore, the planner has reported to council at the December 2021 planning meeting that she had contacted the city of Kawartha Lakes to support her personal view that secondary dwellings are not permitted in an accessory building. Of course, she did. There are many others she could have contacted to support her personal view. What she failed to do, or did, but not admitted, of course, was to contact two Northumberland townships, which support them as follows, and they lie within the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Area. Crammy Township, and I quote, "The additional residential unit may be located within an existing building or in an accessory building on the same lot." Trent Hills, the secondary unit may be contained within the primary residential dwelling or in a building ancillary to the residential building. Although evidently outside the ORMCA, even Brighton uses shall approve secondary residences ancillary to the principal residence. And Hamilton Township evidently is reviewing its policies with a view to permitting them. But that's only an unofficial comment from the township. Now, some background regarding the closed session of council. First, the planner, with approval from some members of council, contacted the Templeman legal firm in Belleville, and I know it's an outside of Northumberland County firm of record, evidently to support her personal view about secondary residences. Secondly, However, since council went into closed session to discuss this matter, I am unable to determine exactly what was discussed, what was asked of a lawyer, what was reported, whether oral or written, and whether any of my personal information was shared, possibly in contravention of the federal privacy laws. Thirdly, when I inquired under the township's disclosure policy about the results, I was informed that all was subject to client solicitor privilege, of course. And I was simply informed that the regulations and the bylaws are consistent with provincial policies and no changes will be made at this time. It is unfair and unjust that I cannot challenge or even appreciate what was discussed on a matter which pertains to me personally, especially since whoever contacted the solicitor could ask any type of questions that could be directive, leading, generalized, misinformed, misleading, or irrelevant in my situation, and which can result in responses only satisfactory to the questioner. What were the reasons for moving into a secret session of this public body? Yes, it's allowable under the Municipal Act, as we know, but generally moving into closed sessions by such public agencies are usually around personal or financial matters. This is strictly a policy matter. In my opinion, the council has wasted $1,852 of taxpayers' money, which I was informed could have purchased over 150 meals for those in need of assistance in this municipality alone. And it would be interesting to review the detailed invoice for the service, most likely permitted by the township's disclosure policy, although the details, of course, are not. Some quotations from legal documents now for you to consider, despite what you may have been told in both public, informal, and secret meetings. First, the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Act, quote, "The purpose of the countryside areas is to encourage agricultural and other rural uses that support the plan's issue. And most important to this issue, quote, official plans and zoning bylaws shall not contain provisions that are more restrictive than those in this plan." Secondly, Northumberland County Official Plan, quote, "Local municipalities are also required to permit a secondary resident in an accessory building," unquote. The Alderman zoning bylaw, quote, "Notwithstanding section 4291A, a secondary dwelling unit within an accessory structure is not permitted with the ORMCP area. Section 4291A does not exist. And yet your staff insists complying with the non-existent bylaw. My neighbor in the identical ORMCA countryside zone was obviously able to circumvent this restriction. How and by whom? Fourth, the Ontario Planning Act, quote, "An official plan shall contain policies that authorize the use of a residential unit in a building or structure ancillary to a detached house." Fifth, the provincial policy statement under the Planning Act 2020, that's less than 2 years old, quote, "Municipalities should permit and facilitate all forms of residential intensification and redevelopment, including second units." Further, planning authorities shall provide for an appropriate range of housing options, including intensification and additional residential units. Sixth, MLA Piccini has stated that this township's building bylaws regarding secondary residences are too restrictive. And lastly, the planner has reported to council that a contact to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing resulted in a response that, quote, "Regulations contained in the Township of Alderman zoning bylaws are consistent with the ORMC plan," unquote. Specifically, who called the ministry? Who was spoken to? What was the person's position and experience? What was the precise wording of the request? What was the precise wording of the response? Were they oral or written? Were questions directive, specific, general, misleading, informative, detailed? For example, anyone could simply ask if the township's bylaws are consistent with the plan. The answer could be a simple yes. And that's what you received. Now, my summary comments. Despite all the facts presented to council by myself, and I believe that much was buried in the dozens of pages typically sent to council members by the planner dealing with other matters during those meetings, mostly from bylaws and regulations included in the agenda, but read out by the planner, taking an inordinate amount of time at one meeting, and what a waste of human resources. This has been one of the most frustrating experiences I have had in many years of dealing with government at all 4 levels. It appears to me that your planner is either on a quote, control trip, making preconceived decisions rather than providing options, as I heard earlier, to council members, or is attempting to exercise a personal vendetta in view of my challenging her abrupt and unjust comments about a secondary residence when simply making an initial contact from information only in accordance with the township's policies. Further, it appears that this township is seriously lagging behind with respect to the current and future realities of housing developments as compared to other municipalities, including our neighboring ones. I'm aware that my words may appear to be rather strong, but this is a highly significant issue, and I feel just as strongly that I need to surface what has been an ongoing, unfortunate, and unjust approach to a very simple matter. Financially, there is absolutely no cost to the township since the building plan is to use the very latest technology with a net zero ecological basis. In fact, the township will gain funds from the additional taxes. In conclusion, I can only hope at this time that council will carefully review and evaluate the factual information and evidence I provided and reconsider their previous feelings on the issue. It would be refreshing to have elected officials make a unanimous decision to support the taxpayers of this township. I've also been informed that a very simple waiving of the pertinent misworded bylaw by council and wording to ensure that it not be a precedent, as council has done many times for other persons, would allow me to construct what I believe all other regulations, acts, and provincial policy statements not only support and encourage, but require. At the same time, it may assist others to exercise their rights for a just and fair hearing. By making any of your future decisions surrounding this topic fair and just for all concerns, I would hope that the township taxpayers would not be placed in a position for additional and unnecessary legal costs and court fees. Finally, I hope that my words will be accepted with the same sincerity with which they are presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simchuk, for your submission. Council will have to look at this and review, but I'm going to ask them at this point if they have any particular questions for you. Anyone? Sheriff, Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Mayor Latchford, and I appreciate, Mr. Simchuk, your presentation, but I don't think it's fair to entertain any comments or questions at this time without having either our senior planner or our chief building official in attendance.
Anyone else? No questions? No questions?
I would hope that is through you,
Yes.
Madam Mayor. I would hope that if that happens, I would be invited. And if a debate or discussion is to take place, in all fairness, as I've indicated, I think I should be present. and given an opportunity to respond. Thank
We'll
you.
have to check what process we can do, but we'll keep that in mind for you. And I'll give to the clerk. Okay. We voted on that, right? So
That
we-
was
yeah.
to let him present. We should have a motion to receive his presentation
Okay.
and then
Be it resolved that council permit Richard Simchuk to, or
you've already done that.
Yeah.
You should have a motion to receive his presentation.
be it resolved that council receive Mr. Simchuk's presentation. And
And then if you want it brought back to a future council meeting,
okay, what do you want, council? That it be brought back? And to be brought back to a future council meeting.
make Mr. Simchuk aware of when that is.
And we can make Mr. Simchuk aware of that date. Have a mover? Moved by Councillor Booth. Second,
I'll second that. Yeah.
Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We'll move on now to item 9, and 9.1 is report.
Oh, the fire department's been waiting here patiently. Maybe we
Oh,
could
sure
just
we can.
skip.
Let's hear
Well, this treasury is this thick. And you're this thick. Okay. So wait, like. So this is item 10.1, and we'll do 10.2 as well, which is also Fire Chief Dawson, and 10.3, which is Fire Chief Dawson. We could go to you. Okay, this report is a presentation by Fire Chief Dave Dawson, Firefighter Matt Dickinson, Medal of Merit. Be it resolved that council permit Dave Dawson, Fire Chief, to take the floor to make a presentation to council. Can I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried.
With apologies,
Sorry for the delay.
Your Worship, I excuse the firefighters, given just the time that was elapsing for the first two presentations. So if it's okay, I would like to back to the meeting. So the official presentation, and perhaps we could get the first on the list as an exception.
Sure, that'd be great. So then the next one is 10.2, and we'll let you go ahead with that. So we're going to, I guess I need to have the motion now to defer this to a future meeting. Okay. Oh, well, Greg moved it and Jim second. Are you okay? We're just going to defer it on. All in favor? Carry. So we'll defer that motion, Pat.
Okay.
10.2 is the report from Fire Chief Dave Dawson, Fire Department budget on the first quarter overages. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman accept the explanations from Fire Chief for the overages of 2 budget lines for item 2022. Have a mover? Sherry?
Yeah.
Okay, Sherry and Jim? Okay, we'll go to that one. Sorry about that, and give the firefighters our apology.
Not a problem.
We never know how long things are going to take. Okay,
I don't have anything more to add other than some report for the two overage accounts. other than to just identify those to you. And that our goal is to find it from. So it's just to be above board to identify the reasons why. At your end.
Okay, so you'll just take it from another budget line.
I will do as a goal.
I'll suggest that to Nicole.
This
I'm
feels
sure,
good.
I'm
It's
sure
been
that's what,
years
I'm
since I've
sure
been
that's what she's going to tell you, but just, which is fine to move items in the budget line, as long as it's in your own budget, right?
here. No problem.
Okay. Councillor Booth?
Just wanted to say,
Turn this on. I just wanted to say how pleased I was that, well, maybe not that it's from fire being the first one, but you are the first department to come forward with an overage report. And we've been looking at this now for the last year or so for departments to come back to council and show us. So thank you very much for the report that you submitted. And maybe you can show Brian here how to fill out the sheet, because it looks like he's on his way to filling them out soon too. But thank you. It was pleasing reading over it at home and actually seeing reasons why and supplied. So I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Booth. I cannot take any credit. For all the credit goes to Nicole.
Oh, sometimes it happens in the first Q1.
It's been a long time since I was in the principal's office. It's good to be here.
Okay, any other questions on that one? No? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Our next one is a report from Chief Dave Dawson regarding delivery of the self-contained breathing apparatus. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alma Calderman receive the report from the Fire Chief dated May 19th, 2022, regarding the supply and delivery of self-contained breathing apparatus. And further, that Council concur with the Fire Chief's recommendation and award the supply and delivery of self-contained breathing apparatus to Emmendale Supply, Fire and Safety for $253,097 plus $32,902.61, which is equaling $285,999.61. Have a mover? Councillor Booth, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson. Go ahead. Yeah.
Quick question through you, your worship, to the fire chief. So Dave, is this replacing all the SCBA's? Like, is this, so is it possible to look in the future? I guess, do they have a life expectancy? Is it 10 years? I don't know what the
The current standard is 15 years.
15.
But these specific ones with Scott come with a lifetime. Now, it's accepted practice that 15 years is the life expectancy. However, standards do change. They have runs over the years. As to what it will be, but it's a decision for us. So yes, 20 SCBA plus 20 spare bottles, and then we have a rapid intervention kits that are there as well, and 44 maps. So yes, it does put us in great shape. Having gone through the scoring, so if I can continue.
Yeah.
Having gone through the scoring evolution of it, one of the biggest advantages for us is that these are compatible with channels, and also Brighton is looking at the same thing. And so that the models are interchangeable with these packs. So as far as us being able to utilize our mutual aid systems and additional resources, they are and we'll work with it.
Okay, good. I think I was along the lines of, and you've explained it, which 15 years from now, probably there won't be a lot of us here sitting at this table, but if we could purchase them, slowly over in time, instead of getting a 200 and something $1,000 bill all at once, if after 5 or 10 years, some of them could be replaced or whatever, but I guess I'll leave that with you or the future fire chiefs to how they're going to replace them. it's just a big whack all at once to have them coming instead of
So
maybe,
I have an answer for you. So part of this process under our budget, so we are figuring it out. And also heading towards our strategic planning by the council. The procurement process or the plan with regards to all of our asset management is something that the fire department needs to look at for the future for that purpose. So it would be very similar to buying at the time. So little bits of money each year, and when that 15 years comes, we have it.
okay, good, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, each of the firefighters have their own masks, is that correct? Like
Yes.
they can use
Yeah.
whatever else, but they have to have their own mask. Yeah, okay.
Just to further identify the council over here, because we do get a great portion of HST money back, and because we allotted for the $300,000, it does allow us the opportunity to buy our own compressor machine. So we will be able to look at that this year, which is a great advancement because right now we're running over. In the event of any major incident, that would be a concern. And also the interoperability is of significance too, given that if we have a major event, the ability to fill not just air bottles, but other departments as well. So the RFP process, in this case, will go good.
That's good. Okay, all in favor? Carried. That's you. You have anything else?
Just as an announcement, to council, I'm going to send something to Jennifer Steen to get it on social media. On June the 11th, there is a public awareness day being operated out of Station 3 in Rosemead. District Chief Mark Jarvis has put this together. We have some different inside agencies coming, like Hamilton Fire, like Trackers Fire. We have the Covert Learn Trail kind of place that we have a couple of interesting opportunities that are coming. Initially identified to do it for the 4-H Club of Northumberland, but since the growth of this event, we've decided to make it public. But then there also will be some areas. So it's a great public education day. It helps us meet some of our requirements.
Good.
Between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Rosemead Station 3.
Okay.
Rosemead, sorry.
And we have bags of township pins, if you want any of those for kids or people. That's, yeah, they're here. Yeah, okay, good. June 11th, I'll mark that in my calendar. Okay,
One last thing, the other thing you'll see on June 18th is that we're having a full day training operation at the Civic Center. So we'll be doing a full day of training. Learning lectures the afternoon as a big exercise as a full. So we're going to finish the day with a family barbecue. Would like to attend, you're also more welcome to attend and get to educate.
good. And we're looking for a date, 8th or 9th for the asset management.
But for him, it's the training, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we're looking at that date.
Good.
That's good for you, yeah. Good, we're good. I'm good. Everybody's good.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay. Good seeing everyone. So we have building and Daryl's not here. Do you want to do that or do you want me to go to Brian?
Or Brian has to be here for the closed session anyway, so
Oh, all right,
can we go back to the number 9?
I can. We're right on it, right here. This is the treasury's report.
Yes.
Treasurer's report. For the first quarter, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman received the report from the treasurer dated May 19th, 2022 regarding the March 22 Q1 financial report. And she's got that report for all the departments. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Booth, second. Councillor Hogg. Okay,
So this is the first time that we've done the report on the overage and it is very time consuming. I understand the importance of it. I think Nicole did an excellent job. And so if there's specific questions, I know Brian was going to address anything to do with Public Works and also there's one item under the Parks and Recreation that there was an overage. So what we're going to do is department heads are going to get their statements once a month. They'll go over it. And then during the second quarter, we're going to look at maybe streamlining this a little bit more in order to make it flow easier. And since this is the first time that we did it, this is what we have. So I don't know if there's specific questions that council has or if there's anything other information that council would like.
I have one specific question.
Okay, I'll see if I can answer it.
Can it just be printed a little bigger?
Yes, I'll make that a note.
Maybe
Yes,
on
I agree. No,
the bigger, even if it's the,
larger paper, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, no, good to know.
other than that. I'm good here. Councillor Booth.
I just wanted to say to you, Pat, thank you very much to Nicole and Troy and that for this report. It was actually fairly enjoyable sitting down at night and reading through these things. I like the numbers, as you know, and everything was explained and everything. So believe it or not, I don't have any questions because it was all explained. So
She'll be happy to hear that. And I'm
I was
happy too.
leaving 20 minutes for you.
yeah, no, it was all, anything that I noted, I looked in there and she explained everything. And I think this is really good, right? It's, so congratulations to the staff for it. Thank you.
Pass it on to them. Yes, thank you.
Make sure that's in.
I will.
Oh, Brian maybe wants to talk about an overage or something.
No, I'd just like to explain a little bit about the public works overages a little bit if I can.
Go ahead.
Again, these are, and then this is the first time I'm used to doing reports on overage like this on the quarterly or 10%. I'm normally used to operating my budget, controlling my numbers. If something is over, I watch from another group and I just make sure my overall budget is. So this is new to me, so I will follow the policy here. But there was some changes when I come here last year with our budgeting system, how some of our lines are created in our accounts and stuff like that. And I was about to change some of them last year, but there was changes in personnel in our office and none of that stuff got done. So and Nicole and I've already talked about a lot of stuff because this keystone I'm used to at different municipalities working the budget like that. But for example, I was talking the sidewalk, for example, in the contract of service. So that's for the snow plowing of the streets at our sidewalks in Roseneath, as well as down here in Grafton. This year again was quite a busy year with snow plowing and that. So that's why we're over on that one. The wages and benefits, when you see overages on wages and benefits, the way our wages and benefits are allocated in the budget, you basically take your total amount of employees, you take your 2,080 hours per employee, and you allocate hours in each department. So if we're over in the one line, like this one is for steam and culverts, we're going to be under on another line, unless it's OT, overtime, which is mainly in the wintertime, is your sanding and salting, which is uncontrolled because of our maintenance standards and policies and stuff. The vehicles and lubricants, we do have an account in there that has $5,000 in there. So when we get a lot of our lubricants and all that, a lot of them are for different vehicles and all that stuff. So sometimes you get an invoice in, it's hard to break it over. Like when you're doing an invoice, like break it down to 15 different vehicles. So it's a bulk purchase. So there is an account for it, but there is actually not as much money in that account. There should be more in that account, is what I'm trying to say, but it is spread out between the vehicles, if that makes sense. And then the 2 half tons, because one is the one I drive, 919, the other one is one of my foremen drive, 817. There was no budget showing in fuel, so it looks like we're 100% over on the fuel. In our budget sheets, I'm used to having fuel allocated to each vehicle. And the way our budget is right now, we just have a lump sum. We have lumps, $120,000 for clear diesel, $50,000 for gas, and then some for oils and lubricants. Then once at the end of the year, when the finance department sits down, then we allocate all those because it's wrote down in a book. And then moving forward, we'll be going away from that written part in the book. When we upgrade the facility, we're gonna have a card system or like a chip system. So each vehicle have a card system in it. And so even the fire department, the building department, when we use it, that fuel will be allocated to every vehicle. So it'll be a lot less paperwork for the finance department and their departments. So moving ahead, that will be better. But back to the vehicle I drive in the foreman's truck. This fuel is fuel bought by a credit card. So again, there's no money allocated or there's no money budgeted in our vehicle under gas. It's all in that lump sum unit. So that's why it looks over, but it's the only one you're seeing allocated because we're using credit card. Everyone else, all the other vehicles are the bulk purchase at the township shop. So I just want to be clear about that. That's why I wrote over. There was no money put in there, but at the end of the year, all the fuel is distributed to all the different vehicles. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yep.
And then there was just there's a few little minor repairs and maintenance on a couple of the vehicles there at the bottom. But again, we do watch them and we try to save money in different spots that at the year end that I try to balance the budget. That's what I want to say.
Good, thank you.
The only other thing I wanted to mention too was some of the negative accounts are because of 2021 accruals, so it'll be picked up and corrected, so.
Yeah, okay. Any questions, comments? Well done.
Just one, and it relates not really to this, but what you mentioned about the new fuel carding system. So is there going to be a camera on the fuel card system?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have to say why. We've had issues in former employers that when they have a fuel card system, you want to make sure that there's a camera on the pump, that you know who is using the card, if the card was lost or whatever, so that you have a good picture of who's actually fueling the equipment.
Or who might be trying.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
them. Not
Obviously, you know about it too, Brian,
Yeah.
so that's good that there's a camera system or something on it.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Yes, and again, even with our insurance company, internally as well with the camera, but with the price of fuel and that too, people breaking into the shop, it's recommended that we have a camera. So
Hopefully it doesn't go up much higher. So no further questions, comments on this report?
I have a question for Brian, but it's not the report. I got another call from Gerald Devon, and he wondered what you did to the ditch up there, and are you gonna come back and finish it? Or is that the way it's supposed to be? I haven't seen it. He called me when I got here down today, so.
I missed this call too. I seen that when I sat here, so I'll go see him. I was up and seen Gerald and picked up a letter from him there a week or so ago and kind of explained to what our process was moving forward, but I'll maybe have to stop and have a chat with him again.
Okay.
Maybe it was after all the rain. We got real heavy rain.
But there does need to be some long-term restoration work done in those ditches, and I did talk to him about it, but maybe I'll just have another chat with him, that's all.
He is persistent.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor on this report? Carried. So are you doing building report right now?
Yes, I am, Madam.
Okay. She's our jack of all trades. So this is Daryl Hall, building planning assistant, CBO, MBEO planning assistant, and request for building permit fees to be waived. Be it resolved that council of the township of Alma Calderman received the report from the chief building official dated May 19th, 2022 regarding the request from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 580 to waive the building permit fee, and further that council provides the direction. So can I have a mover, and then we'll let Pat do the report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Booth. Okay, Pat.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I received a letter from the Royal Canadian Legion requesting that council give consideration to waiving the $250 minimum building permit fee. And so Daryl's report just explains that it is a minimum building permit fee. The Legion have indicated, and we all know because of COVID that they've gone through a couple of years of where they weren't able to generate any funds. And so we just need council passes the bylaw to set the fees. So council has the authority to waive a fee if they so choose. Just to make council aware that there still is the requirement for building inspections, but it's up to council whether or not you want to waive the fee or not.
What's the motion?
I'll further the motion I made to say that I will approve the waiver of the fee for the branch.
And I'll second that.
Any questions or comments?
What are they building?
It's renovations to the bathroom.
Bathroom and the floor.
They got a grant to do the washrooms, and they haven't been able to do that because of COVID.
Right.
And there's also some supporting walls underneath now that they've got to find more money for, and able to be able to do that prior to doing these washrooms now. So that's what they found it. So this will probably come out of council's money, right?
No, there just wouldn't be a charge, would there?
Yeah.
No,
will
there won't be a charge, but if anybody questions it. council
We
has
can
that.
allocate it from that.
When you think,
I was gonna say to take it out of the building budget, that, you know, like a revenue, like, so he wouldn't get that revenue. But it doesn't matter. If we
Okay.
would take it out of ours, it's just,
But there doesn't have to be anything. We can just waive the fee. So why would we do an administration thing of like charging somebody just, council approves it, waive the fee, so.
it's just if you need a paper trail, I'm okay with.
Can we put it
whichever
down
way.
like a donation? That way? It's just in
Well,
case some-
that would be a council donation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with Councillor Booth. It's just a waived fee, and it's
Okay.
nothing in or out.
No, that's fine. I'm okay with that. All in favor? Oh, here we are now. Item 12, Public Works Department, and report from Brian McMillan. Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, 2022 construction projects. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman receive and file the Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation list of 2022 construction projects. Mover? Councillor Hogg, second, Councillor Booth. Do you want to go through this, or?
I'll answer any questions. There's quite a bit in that report. It's broken down into the actual full reconstruction, which is 3 roads, is the Bernardale Road, Curtis Point Road, and that small section of Funnel Road, and kind of to the bridges and pretty
Yes.
repair.
Yeah.
Um,
I like the way you did this.
There's a joint project on back roads, Boundary Road with Trent Hill, so I thought I'd mention that. Trent Hills is really doing that. Sorry. First time. Baxter Road there it's a joint project with Trent Hill, so that's on there. They're doing most of the project, but we'll be sharing the cost. And then this is a big part of maintaining our current road infrastructure there's roughly, if you add them up, about 16 kilometers there of resurfacing, which is Davis and Macklin, Grills, Hoskin, all the way down. So that's, just extending the life of the current road and not letting it get past its point where you can do this work, because if we let it go any much farther, we're in a full reconstruction, and that's going to double to triple your cost on rebuilding that road. So then there's a few at the very end there, just some work in the fall. Ones I think council's probably maybe heard comments before from the people up on Boyle Road. That's pretty well developed there now. But again, the plan there is to do all the leg work, the underground work this fall, make sure the work we do this fall is done appropriate, that in the spring, the clay and whatever's in the ground is removed this fall and geotextile cloth put in so that when we go to hard top the road next year, that the road lasts for a long time. So it's very important that we do that work ahead of time. Yeah, that's just some highlights.
Anything further? Nothing? Okay, keep this one in your car because people ask you all the time which roads are being done and what's being done.
So you through you, Mayor, and I guess that's the other thing. We will get that posted on the township website, stuff like that, so the residents see that as well.
Yeah, always set that one aside.
Madam Mayor, we're also going to include it in the tax flyer that's going out
Good.
beginning of June. So
Yeah, all right. Perfect. Thank you. All in favor? Carry. Okay, we're on 13 and administration, and the first one is the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk. Development charges bylaw, Clark Consulting Services. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alma Alderman received the report from the acting clerk dated May 19th, 2022 regarding the development charges bylaw and Clark Consulting Services. Have a mover. Councillor Hogg, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson. Okay. Go ahead, Pat.
okay, thanks. So at the last council meeting, council had asked that I bring back a report on the costing and whether or not we'd gone through an RFP for Clark Consulting. So when I did the review, the development charges background study was done for the township in 2017, and we adopted our development charges bylaw in April of 2017, and it's for a 5-year term. And then in May of 2019, the province introduced Bill 108, which made changes to the Development Charges Act. And that became into effect on January 1st, 2020. And then the changes indicated that the township would require 2 bylaws, a development charges bylaw and a community benefit bylaw. Then in early 2020, there was a release of Bill 197, and that made further changes to the Planning Act. And that was proclaimed on September 15th, 2020. Bob Clark met with council on January 14th, 2021, and council agreed to Clark Consulting Services that they should proceed with preparing the updated development charges bylaw. And at the time, we thought we would need a community benefits bylaw, but talking with Mr. Clark last week, we do not. So there was no request for RFP for initiating this study, and it was initiated through discussions with council and staff. And an actual motion was passed on January 14th, 2021, that Clark Consulting's update be received, and further that council direct Clark Consulting Services to proceed with the recommended changes. So we are required to update our development charges bylaw, and the total cost was estimated at $19,526. We've paid just over $10,000, so the balance of approximately $9,000 is still outstanding. And staff met with Mr. Clark last week, and so we should have a report coming forward to council in June of this year. So that answers everyone's questions.
Anyone have any other questions on them? No. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Carried. 13.2 is the joint municipal election compliance audits, and acting clerk Pat Kemp is going to comment on that as well. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alma Alderman received the report from the acting clerk dated May 19th, 2022 regarding the joint municipal election compliance audit committee, and further that council concur with the joint municipal election compliance audit committee. Can I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson. Councillor Booth, seconds. Okay, Pat.
Okay, so under section.
This is new, isn't it?
No, we've had a compliance committee, the last election.
Right.
I'm not sure if you were like a report came forward to council or not. I don't know, but
I just didn't remember it.
Yeah.
but That's okay.
under section 88.37 of the Municipal Election Act, every municipality and school board must appoint a compliance audit committee. So the 7 local municipalities in Northumberland County have agreed to a joint municipal election compliance audit committee. And the term of the appointment would be concurrent with the office of council. And it would start on November the 15th, 2022 and run till November 14th, 2026. The committee will be composed of a minimum of 3 members and a maximum of 5. And the members of the committee cannot be a candidate, a member, or an employee of council, or a school board or registered third-party advertiser. An advertisement has been placed in the local paper and on the township websites to ask for people to submit their names. All applications are going to the deputy clerk at Port Hope. And following today, we'll be posting it on our website. So once the candidates have been selected, then we'll bring forward a bylaw to council to appoint those members. And the financial impact is it's a $600 retainer fee, and that cost is shared by the 7 municipalities. And then if your municipality happens to be one of the ones that's challenged for one of your candidates, then it's $150 per meeting attended plus the mileage, which is the township's mileage rate. And that cost is incurred by the municipality. So basically what a compliance audit does is if somebody challenges somebody's expenses, then they would review it and say whether or not it's in compliance or not. So.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 13.3, report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, water testing at Rosemead Fairgrounds. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman received the report from the acting clerk dated May 19th, 2022 regarding the water testing at Rosemead Fairgrounds, and further that council provides directions. So can we get it on the floor, please? Can I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson. Second, Councillor Hogg. Okay.
Okay, so council has asked that, first of all, I wasn't aware that we did testing at the Rosemead Fairgrounds. And then council had asked that we contact the Rosemead Agricultural Society. So the CAO and myself met with Barb Foreman on May the 5th, and we made Ms. Foreman aware that council had concerns regarding the cost and also the liability issue. She did state that the 2022 Rosemead Fair is scheduled for September 30th to October 1st and 2nd, and that the washrooms on site wouldn't be used this year due to accessibility issues, and that the Agricultural Society would only need water to the cattle barn and the midway in 2022. And so I just need council's direction if you want the municipality to cover the costs, or if you do not want the municipality to cover the costs. I do have the non-residential agreement for Lucy coming to council on June 2nd, but I need to know whether or not this is included in there or not. So
Do we have the cost at this point?
no, I only had I did reach out to Larry from Lakefront
Yeah.
Utilities, and because he has to check with the MOE on exactly what would be required for testing, he did not have a price for me, and he did send me a form to fill in, but it was, we aren't the owner, so I would not fill out the form. So
Okay. Well, I was just wondering with the one for the washrooms, that they're not going to use that, if that would drop the price.
yeah, I would assume you'd still need the same required testing. I know that it's one less place to test, but I would think it would probably be around the same cost. I don't know for sure, but so
Okay.
I just need direction from council so I can.
Questions? Yes.
Through you, Mayor, and maybe, I don't know, Pat, if you can answer, or maybe Councillor Booth is a better one to ask, but if we provide payment for the testing, it does not mean that we're accepting liability for the water use. I guess that's a question. if we pay for the testing, does that mean that we are accepting the liability for the use of the water?
I would be concerned that you would be implicated. I don't know for sure, but I think the municipality would be better if you did not.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can answer that. Speaking to Lucy, or that's the issue, right? Is if we're providing the water and we're doing the testing and everything and the Roseneath Fair has nothing to do with it, we're the ones going to be liable if anything happens. Not that there would be, but that's a huge liability to take on, right?
Even if we don't own it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because they're not paying for anything, we are. So if the tests come back and somebody drops the ball and doesn't read the test properly, or something happens and somebody gets sick, Roseneath Fair doesn't get the test results. I doubt the test results probably come to the town. So it'll be totally on us.
So that is a concern, and I hate that it's so close to fair time, and they're probably, you know, this will be an added expense that they wouldn't be counting on. But I think in the interests of the municipality, you know, we should not be taking on the responsibility of that.
I agree when it's stated the way Councilor Booth has said, that it's pretty risky. Could be risky. I just wondering, did they have it at, did they get it to their executive meeting? Or do you just?
I don't know. We just
spoke with
met.
Barb.
Yes.
Okay,
Now, because Lucy has sent me the forms, I was going to send them to Barb after our meeting today.
okay.
To let her know if council are not going to cover the costs and have the inspections done, that, you know, she has that opportunity to follow up and proceed that way.
Yeah, that's too bad because the water testing at every place has gone up so high all over that it's even hurting the municipality. So I guess there isn't anything else that we can do at this point.
I do have a question through you, your worship.
Go
So
ahead.
the Roseneath Fair has been there forever, and a song, they don't have their own well then for, like, have they always been, I'm guessing they've always been using the ACC, but before the ACC was there, what did they use for water? Like, you would think they would have a well on their own property or something, wouldn't they? They've got quite a large piece of property. I don't know the history. Maybe somebody here.
Used to bring in a water truck to water the cattle.
Okay.
And I don't know what the Midway did, but that's what they used to do. So water the cattle and stuff. They used to do
And what about the,
There's a little well outside where that canteen is, if you can
okay.
picture that. And I think that predates the building
way
of
back.
the ACC, which was in
79, 79.
79.
Yeah.
Okay.
See,
Yeah.
they owned it all. They owned all the land. So then the municipality wanted a new council chamber and community centers.
It makes sense
So-
now with the history. It was just, wow, it's been there that long. You would think so they probably
Yeah.
did. And then it was easier to just.
Yeah.
So the
piggyback.
well could have been there.
Yeah.
And-
Before we worried about liability issues so much.
The cattle barns were where the ACC is. And they moved them over. That's when we built the ACC.
Yeah.
Remember the old tunnel underneath the track?
No,
No?
no, that was before my time.
Okay.
Well, it was there.
Must have been a year after.
So remember, I'm an import.
That's right.
I've just been there in like 35 years. so.
Okay, so it doesn't, doesn't look like we can do anything at this point.
So do we make a motion that on that report then, Pat, that
Then I need
the
direction.
Roseneath
that-
Fair wouldn't
will
be
be-
included on the report you're going to present?
Right, so I just,
It's going to be part of the
Um,
motion now.
yeah, that they're not, that the township will not provide the water testing services to the Roseneath Agricultural Society.
I'll
Do we
make,
have
I'll make
COVID
that
yet?
motion, just,
No, it's already
my
made.
name-
It's
oh, is
already
it?
made.
Okay.
Sherry and Jim second that motion if they want to carry
Okay.
it through, but just another question. Since they've been shut down for 2 years due to COVID, is there any COVID funding that we could just donate towards, it? Or would that be,
I don't know. Like, we still have COVID funding, but again, I'm just a little bit concerned if we were paying for the cost of the testing
Yeah.
that we'd be listed as liable. That's my concern.
I was thinking, indirectly.
We could donate. COVID funding as a
Would-
donation.
why don't they take it out of the donation money we already gave them?
How much is, you don't know what the bill is?
No, and we gave them 1,000.
And they're very
I-
grateful.
Yeah, and I do think that the Agricultural Society has the opportunity, if they're in difficulty, to come back to the township for, additional funding or support.
Yeah.
And I just think this is not testing it on behalf of the township is the right thing to do for the township, unfortunately.
Overall,
But like, based on the history, it's unfortunate, but
yeah,
it's the way to proceed.
it's rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means then that staff, further that council is unable or won't be able to pay for the water testing. Is that,
I just had that the township advised the Roseneath Agricultural Society that we will not be responsible for testing the water.
okay, but can we send them an explanation in that letter, like a one-liner?
Yep.
Okay,
It's not just the testing though, it's installing the water filters, the UV
Yeah.
filter, everything, because it's sitting in
Yeah.
ACC.
Yeah.
So Lucy usually comes and they install it all for the summertime and then they take it out. So
okay. But at least that way, it gives an explanation to them. It's
Yep.
not just that we're not doing it, it's because of liability. Okay, all in favor? Carried. This is the 13.4, and this is the asset management plan update. And I'm hoping that council, it's got to come back anyways. And it's so huge. And with the agenda being a little bit late this week, I'm wondering if you wish to defer it. And we have a special meeting on it. We've got another special meeting coming up. We could add to it as well. If you're in favor of that, yes.
and could we also, I know I did speak to Troy and he said it would be possible, have Infrastructure Solutions come and make this presentation to us, because this is a pretty serious document.
Yeah, and usually he comes. Normally he's here.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading in that, so maybe he could give us the executive summary over and highlight some issues in that. It would be better, I think, to spend a separate meeting on it.
Yes. Pat and I both know him, but we can't think of his name. Can you remember his name?
No, but I agree. I think, we need to spend some time on this.
Yeah.
Reviewing this properly, and I would suggest a special meeting get set aside, a half a day or whatever it's going to take.
Okay. So we're going to be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman defer the asset management plan update to a special meeting, special council meeting, and with the owner and author of Infrastructure Solutions, if that's the way you want it.
Would it be possible to merge a half a day with fire strategic planning, a half a day with asset management, and have
That's
us
what we were kind of
here for
looking at.
the whole day?
Okay,
Good use of time.
Yes.
okay. So can I have a mover for that, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second, Councillor Booth, all in favor? Carried. Perfect. Now, our committee report. Item 14.1, Lower Trent Conservation Regular Board Meeting Minutes of March 10th. Joint Animal Control Municipal Service Board meetings of April 27th. And the Heritage Committee meeting minutes of May 6th. Be it resolved that the Lower Trent Conservation Regular Board meeting minutes of March 10, 2022, the Joint Animal Control Municipal Service Board meeting minutes of April 27th, 2022, and the Heritage Committee meeting minutes of May 6, 2022 be received and filed. Can I have a mover, please? By Councillor Hogg, second by Councillor Booth. Any concerns or questions? Okay, just flagging, the Barnum House is going to have a open doors on, what's the date? There, got it.
18th.
Yeah, Strawberry Social, Saturday, June 18th. $10 for adults and $5 for children. I've never been in that building.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd love to get in. I was supposed to go another time, but Bob wasn't available. So, all in favor? Carried. That should go on our
Question
website as
regarding the
well.
Barnum House. When I drove by there just this afternoon, there's a bunch of furniture out on the driveway. Are they cleaning up out there or this,
They could
does
be,
anybody know?
or maybe somebody's donating furniture.
If it was out in the rain, it's ruined.
Well, I think Ontario Heritage
office
probably looks
furniture.
after that. Crane. Never. Okay. But that'll go on our website too, the Barnum House.
Yep.
Social.
That was my announcement.
It was in the minutes. Communications, correspondence from Rogers Communications, notice of commencement of their public consultation. Be it resolved that the correspondence from Rogers Communications Incorporated, re-notice of commencements of public consultation be received and filed. Mover? Councillor Booth, second, Deputy Mayor Gibson. Any questions or comments? The new towers that are coming around? All in favor? Carried. 15.3 and, oh. No, 15.2. This is from Northumberland Chamber of Commerce. Sponsorship request. Be it resolved that the correspondence from the Northumberland Central Chamber of Commerce dated May 10, 2022, re-sponsorship request for the Business Achievement Awards Garden Party be received, and we need council direction. Have a mover, please, and council direction. Usually we do that. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, I'll just make a motion that we repeat our gold level sponsorship.
Okay, that's the $500 one, right? Okay. Second, Councillor Booth. Any questions or comments or anything on it? Yes.
Just one question. They didn't do their evaluation day where you have,
No.
Sherry sent me last time a couple of years ago, thank you, where you spend the whole day and go through some mind-bending forms that you're looking at all day. They didn't do that the last little while.
It
Because of
sounds like
COVID.
it's coming up with this one.
Oh.
They're recognizing. It'll be Jim's turn next.
Jim, you get to go.
Everybody gets a turn.
What is it?
Oh, you'll find out. You get coffee and cookies, so you'll be
And you'll
okay.
get your lunch and you get a pen and you evaluate the people's submissions for that they're nominating for businesses.
Oh.
It's a morning.
It's a good way to get to know all the businesses.
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor on that one? Carrie.
Maybe I'm not in favor.
Correspondence, 15.3. I won't read them twice. Be it resolved that the following correspondence be received and filed. AMO Communications dated May 5th, 2022. AMO Communications dated May 12th, 2022. and Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, dated May 3rd, 22, re the AMO 2022 Annual Conference Delegation Form. So if anybody wants to go to AMO, it's all here. Have a mover, please. Greg, second, Deputy Mayor Gibson. All in favor? Carried. Item 16 is our bylaws, and the first one is bylaw number 60, 2022, and this is to regulate sales setting off of fireworks within the township. Be it resolved that bylaw number 60, 2022, being a bylaw to regulate the sale and setting off of fireworks within the township of Almac-Haldeman, and to establish and set fees, charges thereof, be read and deemed to be passed this 19th day of May, 2022. Mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Hogg. Any questions or comments on that? We've been working on it. That's the final.
Actually, Mayor Gibson, I just wanted to make a comment, Deputy Clerk Yolanda. I just wanted to let everyone know that this is the fireworks bylaw as amended. So we have amended the previous one. So we did pass one last year.
Yeah.
This is a new one that we've created with all the amendments. So we're repealing the one that was made last year and
Okay.
moving forward with this newly developed fireworks bylaw. The reason being is this fireworks bylaw includes a Schedule A, which is the new permit that will be required for any firework display that any resident wishes to do. And it is through the online burn permit process. So they will have a module on there for the burn permit process, which will indicate whether or not you want to apply for a fireworks permit.
Okay. I see family fireworks permit and then on the right side, free of charge, but are those
Yes.
just on the dates of May 24 and July 1st or? Okay, I want
So family
clarification. on-
fireworks, so I have had a discussion with the fire chief.
Okay,
He does want to regulate all the fireworks being let off in the township. So therefore, he does want people to apply for a family fireworks permit. It's free of charge, but he still wants the application in there so he can determine where these fireworks are being set off and whether or not the fire department has reviewed it.
okay, that's good. All the little kids like fireworks. Me too. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Yeah,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Gibson and Councillor Hogg. 16.2. This is the bylaw 6122, and it's regarding the agreement between Pat McLaren and the township for the 12 acres up on County Road 29. Be it resolved that bylaw number 61-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and acting clerk to execute an agreement between Pat McLaren and the township of Almac-Haldeman for leasing 12 acres of land described as part of Lot 6, Concession 8, on registered plan 39R278, include parts 3 and 4 on registered plan 39R278 for a term of 2 years, commencing January 1st, 2023 and expiring on December 31st, 2024, be read and deemed to be passed this 19th day of May, 2022. And that's on the old Burnley gravel pit. Have a mover? Councillor Hogg, second. Councillor Booth? Any questions or comments?
Is he all in favor of this? Was he told of this?
No, I was going to, once it went to council, then make him aware of it.
Okay,
So I was gonna send it out tomorrow after council signs it.
okay,
But I will put in it, letting him know that council's direction was that we would be going for an RFP in this, I guess it would be the spring of 2023, because they It runs out in 2024.
I think he's aware.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Before you move on to other things, we do have two bylaws that council gave direction to bring forward today. The first one would be the licensing bylaw. So we don't have bylaw numbers on them, but they would be, so it was included in your package. So the first one is the licensing bylaw. Yeah.
Yeah, got them.
So, okay, the licensing,
Bylaw number blank.
so the first one is, oops, on page 49 of the agenda package, and that's the bylaw to license, regulate, govern short-term rental accommodations.
Yeah. You going to numbers? Yep.
Yep.
Sure.
So it will be number 63.
It may not. It depends on how it's listed in our listing that we have online. But I'm not sure.
I don't think she assigned a number to it because
So we have 60,
Because-
61
But there's already.
the confirming bylaw
is 62.
is 62.
However, I do believe that Susan has already grabbed some of those numbers for some planning.
Okay.
So we're not sure if the numbering is set up.
She'll know before the end of the day.
Yes, as soon as we go back downstairs, we'll know.
Okay. Are you giving them? to me? Or-
That's the bylaw. First one. And the second one is that one.
And I'm doing,
We're going to do both. First one is the licensing bylaw.
Yeah.
So that's the one to regulate them. And the second one is to prohibit any future ones.
okay. And how much of this do I have to read that whole page?
No, I just do the top part where it says.
Okay, the being, okay.
Being a
this is
bylaw to
the
regulate
cor-
and-
Okay. Be it resolved that bylaw number, which is going to be filled in, being a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern short-term rental accommodations. In the township of Alnwick, Haldeman. Be read and deemed to be passed this 19th day of May, 2022. Need a mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now this is the next one. And it will have a number attached to it today as well. Corporation of the Township of Haldeman, bylaw number, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 19-2019 as amended, which may be cited as the Township of Alnwick Haldeman Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 19-2019, which is a bylaw to prohibit the use of land and the erection and use of buildings or structures except for certain purposes, and to regulate the height, location, floor area, spacing, and use of certain buildings to be erected within the municipality and the minimum frontage of the parcel of land that any building or structure may occupy. So this is an amendment to bylaw number 19-2019.
Yeah, the 19-2019 is our zoning bylaw.
Right, so it'll have a different
Yeah,
bylaw number. Okay, do you need anything else? Read and deemed to be passed May 19th, 2022. Have a mover? Councillor Booth, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson, all in favor? Carried. Okay, the next is announcements and notice of motions. I get to go first this time. First of all, I'd like to thank council and staff for the lovely plant arrangement that was sent to our family. And thank everyone for all the support. Our son-in-law passed away. And I have a proclamation for Paramedic Services Week. Whereas 1 week in May of each year is recognized across North America as Paramedic Services Week by municipalities, paramedic organizations and associations, as well as other levels of government. And whereas the 2022 Paramedic Services Week is May 22nd to 28th, 2022. And whereas the same theme for this year is Paramedic as Educator, Faces of Paramedicine. And whereas paramedics dedicate their lives to public service and their skills often make the difference to be recognized and honored. And whereas the Township of Almac-Haldeman wishes to recognize the important contribution of the 120 full-time and part-time paramedics who work out of 6 bases across the county, as well as recognize the paramedics across Canada. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Gail Latchford, on behalf of the Council of the Township of Almac-Haldeman, do hereby proclaim May 22nd to 28th, 2022 as Paramedic Services Week in the Township of Almac-Haldeman, and urge our fellow community members to recognize the vital contributions provided by all paramedics in Northumberland. Dated 19th day of May, 2022. Maybe we could get that on our sign as well. And I have one more. It's not really written as a proclamation for our township, but I'm going to read part of it because it's before our next regular meeting. And this one is for National Accessibility Week, which is May 29th to June 4th, 2022. Under the Accessible Act 2019, Section 133, throughout Canada each year, the week starting on the last Sunday in May is to be known as National Accessibility Week and is an opportunity to promote accessibility and inclusion across communities and workplaces, and a time to celebrate the contributions of Canadians with disabilities and to be inspired to further break down barriers. And whereas the National Accessibility Week was first established following Paralympian Rick Hansen's Man in Motion tour in 1987, and whereas Almac-Haldeman is committed to accessibility, and the theme of making Almac-Haldeman more accessible raises awareness that we can work together and continue to help with accessibility issues, which we're already in the process of doing. And we were doing that with grants for the trail. It'll be an accessible trail at Grafton. And we know Public Works and Parks and Rec are working on improving our buildings for accessibility. And we'll continue to apply for funding when that type of funding comes up. You want that one? I scribbled all over. It's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And I have an invitation in my mailbox today. If any of you would like to attend the, and maybe you got emails, I'm not sure, Northumberland Land Trust. They have Northumberland Land Trust quarterly invites you, this is sent to myself and all of council, to the opening of our newest property, the Bone Baker Nature Reserve. The event will begin at 11 a.m. on Sunday, June the 5th at the entrance to the reserve. There'll be a light lunch to follow on the patio of the property donors, Tyne and Joanna Bone Baker, and an optional 1-hour guided tour of the property to end the day. And there's a flyer here, so more details in it. Maybe I'll get Pat to scan it and email it out to you. RSP was to be by May 15th, but the details are here anyway. So if anyone is interested in that, I'm sure that will be fine. Oh, and that's a reference to something else. So that's all that I have for today. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Gibson.
I have nothing.
Councillor Phillips absent. Councillor Booth.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One was about just the Bone Baker thing on June the 5th. Is that, Brian, where the closed road is? Your staff might want to take a look at that road before they do something on June 5th to make sure that, I believe it is. I drive by there sometimes and I just noticed it and it's on a closed road. So they might want to maybe just take a look at the closed road before you get anybody going down there with their cars, or you'll be,
Which one was that?
it's, I don't know where it is. It's off of, it's near the Hoskins farm.
It's just north of what is now Stony Brook, which the Hoskin. It's not, it used to be the Hoskin farm.
Okay.
But the Bickles run it now.
Okay, yeah.
So kind of just north of there, that little jaunt.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
you
used
know
more
how
by
you-
the farmers than it is by a car or that. So if you get people going in there, they might.
Thank you.
And I did have an announcement about this week is also National Public Works Week for Brian and his staff. So thank you very much to his staff for all their hard work. And just one other
Sorry,
issue.
I missed that.
Well, you had so many proclamations. I thought, well,
Yeah.
and just one other thing, and this through your worship to Pat, if Pat could maybe possibly bring back a report or something or some information, but in looking at the Roseneath Fair and looking at the Roseneath Fair grounds, the baseball diamond that's there and the playground, the baseball diamond, there's a group using the Roseneath Fair baseball diamond now on Friday night, which I don't believe they pay anything for. So I'd like to look into that group to why we're allowing somebody on the Roseneath baseball thing and why we wouldn't put them down here to the baseball diamond.
I'm not sure we own that diamond.
We don't own it, but we have the rights to, according to the agreement with them, we have the rights for usage of the field, the baseball diamond. Now, I could be wrong, but if somebody could look into it, because there's no rental fee for it. And I believe the group came to the town and asked us to supply the baseball bags for it and that. So,
Recently?
yeah. Now, I don't know if they've been playing there, probably not over the last few years with COVID, but if we could just get the history of it, that's all, just to find out, because I guess my concern would be, if they are using it, are we responsible for now if they're playing ball there and there's no insurance or anything, or I don't know.
Is it kids or is it adults or pickup?
I don't know. I just know it's a
league or-
Friday night league or something, and I believe they asked the town to supply the baseball bases for it or something. I don't know, Brian, whether you know anything about it, do you?
Yeah, I think it's through you, Mayor. I think there's a Friday night mixed 3-pitch league, I think, that plays there. And I think they have in the past used the fields. I don't know when, I don't think they played last year, I don't think, with COVID, but I think that's the only league that plays there. I'm not sure of the arrangement either, but I know right now the bleachers are on top of the infield. And they're supposed to be removed next week. I think the ball starts there next Friday night, I believe.
Okay. So there could be ball equipment there. Yeah,
We can
there
look
was.
into it, though. We can find out more details.
Okay.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Oh, you had the Barnum House
Yeah,
announcement that I messed up on.
Don't you want to remind everybody again about Barnum House?
That'll be the third time they've heard it today.
So item 18 is motion to recess to closed session, that the council of the Township of Almac Haldeman will be recessing to a closed session under section 2392. To consider B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, with the manager of public works, park recreation, acting clerk and deputy clerk remaining in attendance at 3:09. Have a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Gibson, Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. So we'll go in camera and we'll come back at what, 3:15? Need a bit of a break.
Fine.
We're at item 2 on the agenda. 18.2. Motion to reconvene to the regular session. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Walnut Hall will adjourn the closed session at 3:54 p.m. and reconvene to regular session. Deputy Mayor Gibson, second Councilor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. And now we have item 19, which is the approval of the conforming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 62-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council session held on Thursday, May 19th. Be read as passed this 19th day of May 2022. Councilor Hall, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson, all in favor? Carried. And motion to adjourn at 3:55 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, and seconded by Councilor Hall, all in favor? Thanks, everyone.